recent release of ChatGPT did that. Basically, you would say that the sky is red and he'll try and explain that to you, that why it's red. It was one of the biggest rollbacks that I've seen in the tech industry that happened. Like they had to roll back the entire new model in a week's time. The way I think of LLMs right now, at least for vertical obsessed companies like us, right? So the football, not the sports. Like, I mean, if you think of that, right? The companies that are focused on vertical, I think the real value that we can add is making sure that the data is grounded. And when I say grounded, means like the data doesn't contain hallucinations or does not contain frivolous facts. And also then to have very strong foundational guidelines for your AI to kind of like, stick in that scope. That doesn't just happen by saying, hey, limit yourself to the scope. That's not how easy it is. So I think the point is that how do you actually generate these data sets in real time at scale? How do you verify their integrity of the data? How do you verify that this data is correct, not correct? And a little tricky for us is that sometimes you want to let information that might seem false. But if that's the perception that your customers have, you have to still let that in, right? So it's a bit tricky. It's like someone says that, hey, the iPhone's battery drains very fast. 50 people say that. 100 people say that. 1,000 people say that. Now, even if the iPhone's battery doesn't drain fast, but if that's the perception that people are having that it drains fast, well, we have to capture that sentiment and pass it on to the brand, right? We can't say, hey, you have brilliant battery because you claim for it. And then, genuinely we know that, but there are these 100 people that don't believe that. So you have to let that in. Here's the thing, right? What is factful is one, but what is also generally perceivable and acceptable is another, because there are certain things that are acceptable but might not be won't stand the rigor of science. There are a ton of our beliefs that we have which will not hold up the rigor of science, but they are the perception that consumers have. And in fact, many times brands want to break that perception or want to change that perception to introduce a new product in the market. So it's tricky to kind of do that, but that's where the excitement is, that we have these tons of different pipelines that are there. We had earlier only data pipelines. Now we have data pipelines, AI pipelines that are doing tons of stuff after this data pipelines are doing their own thing. And then understanding whether is it actually personalized, is it actually relevant to the brand? For example, the price of a product may be two different prices in two different markets. It could also be different state to state because of the tax involved. It could also be different because at one point of time there was a promotional offer happening only in one particular store. So it's extremely complicated to kind of like do those things. So what we really do from our perspective is we're obsessed with this fact that it should not hallucinate. So we in fact have in our system any particular output that comes from an AI twin. You can basically select any part of that and say, hey, where did this come from? Why did the twin say this? And for any single word or sentence or paragraph in our platform, you can get a trace back result that says, hey, this is come because in the behavior report, there were 25 to 34 males interested in hip hop music and going to parties. And they discussed that, they kind of like to listen to music on the go, for example, just making all this up, right? All of those data points together led the AI twin to say this particular sentence, and hence this is valid. So I think that's a very key component. It's like how Perplexity put citations into their answers and that got them trust. I think that's a smart thing that they did. We did something without knowing that we were being smart, honestly. We just did it because we didn't want to be a ChatGPT wrapper. But it turned out that it was a smart thing to do. Clients do love that in the sense that you can pick any part of it and you can be rest assured that this is based on real facts and data rather than being hallucinated.